Padre Pio felt the shift before the vision opened. A heaviness settled upon him, not sorrow, but a weight of meaning, a silent density in the room, as if something holy had drawn near and was waiting to be revealed. And then, without sound or warning, the veil parted. He saw a soul standing in a dim, suspended realm, neither tormented nor peaceful, but waiting. The soul looked fragile, surrounded by a faint, trembling light that flickered as though pulled between two worlds. Its form was thin, almost transparent in places, as if sorrow and unfinished purification had carved into it over time. Padre Pio recognized that trembling, it was the mark of a soul longing for God, yet held back by the weight of its imperfections. This soul had loved God in life, but imperfectly. It had sinned, repented, stumbled, and risen many times. It had prayed, yes, but often with distraction. It had loved others, but sometimes with conditions. It carried wounds it never fully surrendered to grace. Nothing in its life merited condemnation, yet nothing yet made it ready for glory. Now it stood in the space where souls wait to be healed, the realm where love purifies what life leaves unfinished. Padre Pio watched its longing rise like a silent cry. It wanted God with an aching intensity. It wanted light, rest, the embrace of the one it had always sought but never reached fully in life. Then the vision shifted. Padre Pio saw a church not grand or majestic, but a small, simple parish chapel, wooden pews, faded candles, an altar adorned only by a crucifix worn smooth by years of quiet devotion. Morning sunlight filtered through dusty windows, casting soft, uneven beams across the sanctuary. A single priest stood at the altar, preparing the chalice. There was no crowd, no music, no incense, just an old priest with tired hands, offering a mass for the repose of a soul. The intention, written on a small card, bore a name. Padre Pio saw it and recognized it instantly as the soul he had just beheld. In that moment, he understood. This entire revelation was about the power of oneness, one offering, one prayer, one act of intercession for a soul who could no longer help itself. Heaven itself seemed to pause as the priest began the Mass. Padre Pio witnessed something extraordinary. The light around the soul brightened slowly at first, then steadily, like the rising of a dawn. Its trembling lessened. It stood taller. Hope, once thin and wavering, now expanded within it like breath. The soul looked upward, not with fear, but with expectancy. At Kyrie eleison, a soft radiance touched its wounds like warm water poured over old scars. At Gloria, its dimness flickered with the faintest spark of joy. When the priest placed the bread and wine on the altar, angels gathered around the soul, carrying tiny points of light, graces released by the prayer of the Church. But it was at the consecration that the vision became overwhelming. As the priest lifted the host and spoke the sacred words, the entire spiritual realm shuddered. Light burst forth, not violently, but with unfathomable authority, pouring over the soul with a tenderness so profound it brought Padre Pio to tears. This was no metaphor. This was the real, tangible effect of the Eucharistic sacrifice offered on earth for the dead. Padre Pio saw thin, nearly invisible chains fall away from the soul's form. Old regrets dissolved. Guilt loosened its grip. The heavy sorrow weighing it down began to lift as if unseen hands were gently raising it. A transformation had begun. The soul wept not in torment, but in holy relief. For the first time, it felt grace not as something it had earned, but as a gift freely given, bestowed through the prayer of someone still alive, someone who remembered, someone who loved enough to request a Mass. The vision deepened. Padre Pio saw that the soul received, in that moment, precisely what it could not give itself, the application of Christ's own sacrifice upon its wounded spirit. A Mass is not merely a prayer, it is Calvary made present again, and the merits of that sacrifice washed over the soul like a cleansing fire that healed, not burned. Then Padre Pio witnessed something that stunned him. The soul, once nearly transparent, began to shine, not yet with the full brilliance of glory that comes later, but with readiness. The readiness of a spirit loosened from its burdens. The readiness of one drawing nearer to God because another person on earth loved enough to place them on the altar. But the vision was not finished. As the priest elevated the chalice, the precious blood shone like crimson light, and that light flowed toward the soul in a gentle stream, like liquid mercy. Every drop carried healing, strength. The infinite love of Christ poured out for the living and the dead. Then Padre Pio grasped the mystery. One single Mass offered for a soul does more for it than 1,000 personal prayers, not because God values one more than the other, but because in the Mass, Christ himself prays for that soul. The soul trembled under the weight of that truth. And for a fleeting moment, Padre Pio glimpsed what it would one day become, the soul rising, ascending, moving closer to the embrace of the Father. Heaven offered one final image before the vision paused, the soul placing its hands over its heart as if feeling a wound being healed from within. A wound caused by sin, yes, but also by being forgotten. And now, because of one Mass, it was forgotten no longer. The light dimmed swiftly, signaling that more was yet to come. Padre Pio knew the deepest revelation still awaited. What happens to the soul after the Mass concludes, and how heaven applies the merits of that offering across eternity. The vision resumed with a quiet, sacred force so subtle at first that Padre Pio thought it had ended, but then the soul's radiance shifted again. He understood. Heaven had only shown the beginning. The true power, the deepest mystery of a Mass offered for a soul, was about to unfold. The soul stood in stronger light now, still wounded, still incomplete, yet possessing something new: momentum, a spiritual movement upward, a loosening of heaviness, a direction forming within it. Like a compass aligning toward God, Padre Pio felt it in the air. This single Mass had altered the soul's trajectory. As the priest continued the Eucharistic prayer, golden beams of grace extended outward from the altar, not randomly, but with purpose, seeking the soul whose name had been spoken. When they reached it, the soul lifted slightly, as if layers of weight were being peeled away. Then Padre Pio beheld a rare sight: heaven's response to earthly charity. As the priest prayed, "Remember also, Lord, your servants who have gone before us," a ripple passed through the spiritual realm. Angels turned toward the soul. A warm breeze, gentle, tender, flowed through the dim space. This was the Church in action, praying, interceding, and the soul felt it. It closed its eyes, if a soul can be said to have them, and Padre Pio witnessed the release of something deep, the ache of abandonment. The soul had believed itself forgotten. Now, because of one living person's love, because of one Mass intention, heaven itself declared, "You are remembered. You are loved. You are not alone." And the soul began to glow more steadily. As the Mass neared its climax, the priest prayed through him, with him, in him, and at those words, the soul expanded, its spiritual form widening with a surge of grace. This was Christ's sacrifice applied directly, not comfort alone, but lifting. Then Padre Pio saw a staircase of light descending, not rigid steps, but gradual levels of brightness, each representing a stage of purification. Souls do not leap straight from imperfection to glory. They rise slowly through truth, healing, surrender. But because of this Mass, the soul now had strength to ascend. It hesitated on the first step, not from fear, but from unworthiness. The light above was pure, the love immense. Yet grace wrapped around it like gentle hands, and the soul rose, one level, then another. With each ascent, darkness weakened. It shed something, a memory of sin, a wound of guilt or regret. A fear not by force, but by encountering deeper divine healing. Padre Pio trembled. For this soul, a single mass meant progress that might have taken years if time even existed there. It meant freedom, movement, hope. Heaven drew back the veil further. Padre Pio saw a book open before the throne of God, not a book of judgment, but of merit. In it glowed every mass ever offered for this soul, each like a jewel. Some had been forgotten by the soul in life, but heaven remembered them all. The current mass joined them, its light merging with the rest. The more masses offered, the more precisely grace could be applied where healing was most needed. Then came the moment that shattered Padre Pio's heart with awe. A figure entered the vision, not radiant like an angel, nor sorrowful like a suffering soul, but luminous with familiarity. It was someone the soul had loved on earth, a family member long departed, who had once prayed for it. This loved one approached gently, like a parent guiding a child. The soul gasped not with breath, but with recognition. A tender hand rested on its shoulder. No words were spoken, yet Padre Pio understood. You see, you are being helped. Your journey is not forgotten. Love reaches across death. The soul leaned into that touch, and its gratitude made the entire realm glow. Then Padre Pio saw the greatest truth. When a mass is offered for a soul, heaven does not merely receive it, heaven celebrates it. For it means love on earth has remembered the dead. It means someone believed in mercy, in prayer, in placing a soul into the very hands of Christ. And that single act becomes a river of light in eternity. The soul continued rising. Peace dawned in its form, transparency faded, substance strengthened. Flickering light steadied into a warm, gentle flame, the flame of restored hope. As the priest on earth pronounced the final blessing, a door of light opened above, not heaven's gate yet, but a higher chamber of purification, glowing softly, where souls are prepared more deeply for God's presence. The soul drifted toward it, not by its own strength, but carried by accumulated grace. The loved one walked with it to the threshold, then faded gently, leaving the soul to continue now stronger. Padre Pio wept not with sorrow or joy, but with awe at how God honors the smallest charity for the dead, at how Christ's sacrifice, made present in the Mass, moves a soul toward eternal joy, at how much power resides in something so many on earth take for granted. As the vision closed, he whispered the truth now seared into his heart. A prayer may comfort a soul, but a Mass changes its eternity. He watched the soul disappear into the higher realm, carried by grace that entered its story because one person cared enough to say, "Father, offer this Mass for them." And with that, the vision ended, leaving Padre Pio in a silence so profound he dared not move. He understood. If the living truly knew what a single Mass could do, the altars of the world would never stand empty again.